bring in retired U.S. Air Force Major General Mick McGuire now to talk about that. Have we heard yet of the Russians being able to actually attack any of these supply convoys carrying the NATO weapons all the way out to the east, General?
I haven't heard any reporting on that. As you mentioned, what I have, a number of sources have confirmed that they have consolidated from a three-front to a two-front war, basically east and south. And as you focused in the lead in there, Leland, Mariupol, and shoring up the area north of Crimea all the way into the Donbass region. You know, and I think it's very important right now for us, while there's this recalculation with command structure. You talked about the butcher of Syria coming in. There's an opportunity here for the U.S. And others to try to take the lead and get supplies out there to them to help reinforce them. But unfortunately, it looks like Biden is not going to take that position.
Well, I'm unclear as to what supplies you think the United States should be sending that were not, that the Ukrainians would know how to use and wouldn't require U.S. servicemen to use.
Yeah, well, as an example, the MiG-29s is the best example. I was an F-16 pilot by trade. We sent F-16 guys over through the California National Guard. I was the commander of the Arizona Guard, but we had an F-16 training unit that went out and trained with their MiG-29 pilots. Poland has offered those up. They need that capacity to provide some defensive counter.
I understand the MiG debate, and you can go back and forth on that. In terms of the ability to take out Russian aircraft, they're getting the S-300s. We understand the Brits have sent a lot more anti-aircraft weapons here. Is Russian air power really the big issue here, or is it the fact that the East is so much more rural that the Russians are going to be able to use sort of overwhelming maneuverable force with their armor backed up by helicopters in a way that just didn't work out here in Kyiv and some of the more urban areas?
Well, I think you hit on it in your lead in there. There's the tyranny of distance they have to cover to get things over from Poland, that the Russians don't have that disadvantage. As well as in the Donbass and the Crimean region, they have a larger percentage of ethnic Russians on the ground there. Yeah. So how things play out outside of Mariupol is that they will have a natural advantage, as well as the ability to move armored and heavy weapons in pretty quickly. That's why I just keep calling on us to try to get leadership here to de-escalate. We saw the leader of Great Britain, Boris Johnson, head out there yesterday to Kyiv. We really need leaders to try to de-escalate.
You talk about de-escalation, though. That didn't seem in anything what Boris Johnson was saying, and certainly President Zelensky after the meeting in Kyiv with Boris Johnson, and he seemed much more emboldened on the world stage and feels like he's got the Russians on the run. I don't see any de-escalation. I'm trying to put this together. You think that President Biden should send MiG-29s, but also de-escalate at the same time. How does that work?
Well, you have to have the ability to defend the skies over the area you control, like your capital. And you also have to realize that, as you just mentioned, this fight in the East is going to get much more protracted, going to be dug in for a long period of time. The Russians are recalculating and now just have to supply two fronts with much less distance to cover. It's going to be a much bigger challenge than what they had when they stretched themselves too thin, got overextended, and ended up in Kyiv in a situation where they were on defense. So I think it's in everyone's best interest right now to try to de-escalate this thing, including the Ukrainians, and figure out how to find a ceasefire in some way. They got to be able to defend their sovereign territory.
Yeah, the ceasefire seems to be elusive right now. At least some of the folks I talked to out there say it's, you know, for every one day that this goes on, it's another week that will continue the fighting. Hey, we appreciate it, sir. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Leland. I appreciate it. You have a good night.
Yeah, you too, sir.